No sound.
What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening?
You sure? Because I clicked sound.
Yeah. No, it came on a bit late. Just.
Oh. Okay. Hey, everybody. Well, how's that for something? We're going to try this all over again then, because we had a little bit of a false start there. But I better go back and put it to the beginning. Here we go. And welcome, everyone.
What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world?
Your original sound on Scott is incredible.
And that you are watching this because you have heard the call.
Scott, just try it again because
right now,
it deserves to be seen properly.
Opening our hearts and minds.
So this is very confusing. I've got my, okay, I got turned off. Sorry, boy.
No, this is so perfect. This is
it's one of those amazing things. Oh, everybody, we're going to try this one more time. I've done
resilience
times. I've never made this mistake twice in a row. So here we go. Three's a charm. Welcome to the awakening world. Welcome to how perfectly human we all are. All right. Oh, it keeps going off. That's interesting. Huh. All right.
What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Awakening World Saturday Night Edition. I'm Love Coach Scott Katamas, and I'm happy to be your host and practice resilience as we had a little bit of an awkward start there. And it's a really actually very important show. My God, all that's going on in the world. Those of us on the West Coast dealing with wildfires, those in the Southeast dealing with the hurricanes, all the stress around the election, no matter what you're, and with that, the power of resilience is what we're going to be working on. And I'm really grateful because one of our favorite luminaries, he's a regular now on the Awakening World, is our dear friend, Gary Melkin. And Gary suggested doing a show on resilience to me, I guess about 2 months ago. And I said, it's a great idea. And isn't it extraordinary how life kind of rolls? Because after scheduling this, Gary, tell the audience what happened for you.
Well, some of you might be following me on Facebook, where I made a year plus nomad journey, finding the practice of home wherever I am, and it discovered that I want to resettle in Asheville, North Carolina. Did a long surrender of all my possessions and drove west and arrived to Asheville 2 days before the hurricane. And it was the eye of the hurricane was right over me as I was trying to get to the airport. And I have extra special PhD programs to learn about resilience and flow. And so we'll talk more about that, but Hope, come on for a second. And just what we are talking about today is this exciting intersection between consciousness, the connection to the unified source, and resilience and flow. It turns out that they're connected in so many powerful ways, which is why I'm so excited that we can co-host this in a sense, Hope, and that Sue can join us, Dr. Sue. So just say a word about resilience and flow, because it should be short and sweet for what the theme is. But boy, do I have things to share about what I've learned after being in the middle of the hurricane and beyond.
Well, Gary, you are the litmus test for all our theories. And, I've been interested in this topic for a very long time, mostly because of the Infinity Wave, which I teach, and came to me to teach all of us how to stay in a flow state all the time. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's a big part of our upcoming work together.
Yeah, so we'll talk more about that later. Now, though, without further ado, Scott, let's introduce, right? Our first featured speaker.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Dr. Sue Morter is someone that I've known about for a very long time. She's an international speaker, best-selling author, and a master of bioenergetic medicine, a quantum field visionary. Many of you probably know her as the author of the Energy Codes. It's a 7-step system for awakening your spirit. She's a founder and creator of globally taught coursework of the Energy Codes, and just an extraordinary woman. Everybody who's worked with her or read her books raves about her. And so it's a real honor to have Dr. Sue Morter on the show with us. And I'm going to bring her back on with Gary for a moment. Anything you want to add, Gary?
Yeah, well, Dr. Sue, you were my first choice, because what I've learned from you in the work you do is that being 100% responsible for the generator of energy, the connection to that which keeps you regulated and connected to your core, right? So what a gift did you hear. Thank you so much for joining us on this important macro and micro subject. So thanks for being here.
My great joy to be here. It is such an amazing topic, really. It speaks to the foundation of who and what we actually are. We have a tendency to think about resilience as something we're supposed to muster up and become flexible and pliable and come again and begin again, and nothing's going to get me down and I'm just going to keep at it. And there's a real issue when it comes to finding enough energy to continue to do that when we are identified as a separated self, a separate version of who we think we are. The thing that happens when we land here in this life that really pushes us into a dispersal and has us operating on circuits that don't really know how to navigate life, has us orienting as a separate self. And when we're orienting as that, boy, resilience becomes a sought after commodity and something that we hope for, we pray for, and we certainly want to at some point in time, find. And so thank you, first of all, for inviting me to be here and to share. And hello, everyone. Welcome. There is such a beautiful effort and intention behind this program. It's an honor to be a part of it. And anytime that comes together, the vibration is so beautiful. So I'm hoping that each of you are opening in your hearts just by being here, just by intention, and knowing that that's the way that we're going to receive what it is that this intention is that has been set forth for you during this program. And so I'd like to just share a couple of concepts that I share with people when I'm teaching courses. As you were getting started this evening, I glanced down and I saw this is a perfect little image that I can share, because I find that if we have some pictures to work with in our mind's eye, we can reference that very easily, even when the going gets rough. And just before I show the image, I'd like to share that my description of what happens when we arrive here on this planet is that we basically descend and we sort of splat upon arrival. We disperse our resources, and our mind and our body and our breath all sort of go in different directions. And we're just sort of hanging out to see if it's ever going to actually be safe to step down in to this life wholly and fully and completely. And so in that splat, we are dispersed. And in that dispersal, we end up identifying with the mind. Out of all of our faculties, we come down kind of face first on the mind, and we come up and we're sort of attached to the mind. And we think that's who we are. And it's only a part of who we are. And part of the mind is awake and part of the mind is asleep. And so we struggle filling in the blanks and trying to find our wholeness and our completeness. And we're searching and striving and always really pursuing life from this partial perspective. But the fact of the matter is, that's not even who we are. It's just who we think we are, because we're hooked in, attached, and enmeshed in this one part of our wholeness. And so the purpose of our life is to pull ourselves back from this splat, this dispersal, to pull the mind and the body and the breath back together again. And there are certain vibrational frequencies that start to be allowed. They start to be cultivated and culminated when we begin to pull ourselves back together from the splat. And if we could, and we can, begin to cultivate some of those energies consciously and intentionally, it actually starts to pull us back together from the splat a little faster. And we start to collapse time, and we start to operate more as a creator than a survivor. And that's when resilience really becomes a given. And here's why. Let me just show you this image. So you spoke, Gary, just a little bit about the unified field. And so let me just share this, okay? So if this were the unified field, now basically let me just give you a bit of a context. The unified field is everything that is, right? It's the heavens, it's the divine, it is the realms beyond the singular third dimensional realm that we are operating in, the unified field, the 0 point, the allness, the isness, all of it is you. You are actually this unified field compressing itself into a funnel, into a channel, into a continuum that literally pours itself into the physical dimension. Let me explain, okay? So we know that all physical matter is compressed energy. It's compressed energy. That's what we are. Our physical bodies are energy. They're just compressed. Our thoughts and our emotions are energies that are compressed a little less. And so they're not tangible. We can't put our finger on them. We can't catch them like we can our physical body. But nonetheless, they're part of a continuum. And that continuum continues on and on to higher and higher vibrational frequencies, all the way to the unified field. So basically, all of our reality that we're operating in is the universe, the entire unified field, compressed and compressed and compressed and compressed and compressed and compressed and compressed to the physical dimension. And so here we are. We have compressed ourselves all the way to the physical dimension. But in reality, we are not just here. We are that full continuum that follows back all the way to that unified state, the oneness that is. We are a drawing forth of that oneness. And in the drawing forth, we are here kind of peering into this physical dimension. We get caught up in thinking that where we are is who we are. And it's not. It's just where we are. Who and what we are is this unified field compressing itself toward the physical dimension all the way here, just as physical earth. This is what I have it represented as. And here we hit the earth, we rise up and we recycle and we do all sorts of things in a toric field sort of flow. And out of that, we then project ourselves onto a movie screen. And then we walk into that movie for the whole of our lives. Let me just show you this. This would be a close-up of what's happening in that little space. The unified field is compressing into a funnel, into a channel, hitting the physical dimension, turning and rising up and cycling over and over and over upon itself in this toric field flow, which is measurable, tangible, researchable, constantly. Institute of Heart Math references this. We're in this understanding scientifically that this is the nature of who we really are. And then we roll that out and project it onto a movie screen. If this hand were a movie screen, and we're projecting onto the movie screen everything regarding the unified field that we will allow to pass through us without distorting it, without disrupting it, without it being part of the dispersal. So here's sort of a little close-up of that as well. This unified field is here. We are right here as a doorway, and we are projecting this experience out into this movie that we are walking around in. And so what's happening is inside of that, if I take a little bit more of a close-up, it ideally drops in, rises up, cycles around, and is a perfect reflection onto the movie screen. But here's how most of us are operating. In that splat, when we landed in this distorting sort of rough landing, we kind of get jumbled up. And as such, this energy that is pouring in, turning and rising up again, doesn't get to rise up through the same systematic fashion that the perfected version of us would be. And so we, of course, have experiences, conclusions that we draw, beliefs that we establish, all sorts of things that shut down various aspects of the circuitry in the various aspects of our consciousness that create a wobble in the rise. So this energy is descending down and rising up again. It creates this wobble, which creates a distortion in our field. And now we're standing in here looking out through this distorted energy field, and we see something's wrong, something's not right. And so we start going out into the movie and trying to figure out what's wrong with me, try to fix me. Can you fix me? Can you fix me? What do you know that I need to know? How can I gather myself back together again? It's basically what we're pursuing. In that, we get further and further off of core. We get further and further off of course. And as such, we start perceiving ourselves as alone and abandoned. We have abandoned the stream, but we think we've been abandoned. And so in the midst of all that, we exhaust because we're trying to protect and to guard and to find safety and to find calmness and oneness and connectedness again. That we look out there for the connectedness, and the truth of it is that connectedness is right here, back here in the whole system that I've just described, and it's connected constantly to this continuum. We are the continuum. So it's not that we're supposed to connect to something. We are the continuum itself. We are the universe packed into a body. There's nothing missing. There's nothing broken. There's nothing wrong. The only thing that's happening is we're awakening to what I just described. And we're doing it in a clunky sort of messy way, which is the human process. That's how we do it. And we're here to learn how to let it be clunky and messy and for that to be okay and not be judged. And when we start to do that, and we know what we're supposed to be doing, and we do it with love, what happens is we gather back from this splat, we come back onto core, and we begin to feel connected, collected, gathered, rejuvenated, replenished, everlasting. We start to experience ourselves as getting younger because we're constantly being fed by some greater good that isn't mysterious. It is the rest of us. And we're letting it pour in, and we're embracing it more and more. And we're interested in gathering and collecting all that we are and allowing it to pour through without editing and auditing and shutting it down and creating distortions in the field by doing so. So when we take quantum science and ancient spiritual principles and we start to put them together into the bioenergetics of how we know this system is functioning and designed to function, it starts to make sense that we can actually count on resilience if we align ourselves properly. Because that continuum, and I'm hoping that you can sort of memorize that if you're standing right here, this thing is pouring right through you from everywhere, right in through this system to the tune of 1 billion bits of more supportive information every millisecond is pouring into your system. And it's the rest of you that's showing up. And it is the renewal. It is the rejuvenation. It is the healer that's constantly giving us an opportunity to reshape this field and to build circuits right across these gaps, to build bridges right across these areas that we've shut down, and to carve straight through them instead of wobbling around them, so that this starts to look like this again. Because under these conditions, we are resilience. We are it. So the key is not just to develop coping skills for the fact that we're operating as a separated self, that we're in the splat and we're over here identified as the mind and starting to experience the limitations of the mind alone and its limiting tendencies. Instead of just developing the coping skills of how do we do it? We know we got to take time. We got to take deeper breaths. We have to do all of these things, and all of which these practices are beautiful. But if they're done without the awareness that what we're actually trying to do is bring ourselves back to this alignment so that we can have the experience of the glorious, resilient, eternal flow of energy that we actually are, then we're going to exhaust our coping skill ability, because it takes energy to implement coping skills, even if they are going to save us energy in the long run. And while we're busy trying to do that, if we can remember, wait a second, all of this activity is so that I can pull myself back into the true state, into the true self, and not be implementing such exercises and ways of being and living that are creating the exhaustion of the separate self in the first place, I can see that what we're doing here in this messy, chaotic world that we're in is we're here to deliver the solution. We're here as the solution. We are bringing the light. We are the light come into this dark, dense, chaotic space to bring the clarification and the illumination of a higher vibration, which we are made of and are coming here to present. We do so by simply allowing ourselves to be ourselves, allowing ourselves to be trusting that we can come right into these circumstances and leave it better than we found it. So the fact that the world is picking up the turmoil and the energies and the vibration is so tumultuous is a good sign, in my opinion. I actually don't think this is a time that we're here supposed to survive. I think it's a time that we're here for. I think we're made for this. I think it's exactly what we wanted. I think it's breaking up and shaking up these old habituated patterns and ways of being that are egoically based and crusty in their old ways of habits and uninspired action and identities. And the chaos that is happening is the great shakedown that's allowing us to crack the shell just enough that we can come birthing through instead of compressing ourselves and holding back. It's a time where we can start to operate as a creator instead of a reactor. Our old ways aren't working. That's evident. And they're not supposed to, because evolution is what we're supposed to be doing all along. We're here as that itself. So in my best estimation, the best thing that we can do is learn how to love more, regardless of what's happening in the outside. Learn a deeper love. Learn a way, and here's why I'm choosing love. If we go all the way back to that unified field and we start compressing and compressing and compressing the energy to ever get to the physical dimension, the very first compression that happens generates a vibration. And that vibration is a frequency that we call love. So if we can dial into the frequency of love, we can move back up that continuum as close to the unified field as one can actually be and still be in a body, still be in physical human form. And so the combination is beautiful. If we will implement and employ loving the adventure, loving the creative capacity of me that is being called forth because of our times, love into the fact that we're willing to open and be vulnerable, love into the fact that I'm willing to love instead of fight. Those kinds of moments are these pinnacle moments that are actually waking humanity. We exhaust our resources until we just collapse and surrender and say, I'm just not going to fight anymore. I don't know what to do. And the next thing we know, the continuum is pouring right through this doorway because we stopped fighting and we started allowing. Love allows. Love allows this continuum to continue. It allows flow to flow without us distorting or compressing or diminishing it in some way. So I think that as we are evolving from a species of the third dimension into a species of the fourth dimension, which is based in love instead of based in logic and thinking, we are being forced into a new way of being. And I think these times are exactly that. We look into the experiences that people are having and the loss and the fear and the confusion and the devastations that are happening in our material, manifest, man-made world. And we are hopeful when we recognize that we're okay and that they're okay and that we can make this, and we bond together and we experience exchanges that are based in love, just like we did in the pandemic. We found ways of expressing and experiencing love that we hadn't known before when we were just too busy to take the time. And all of a sudden, everybody had to go home and sit down and take the time. And I'm hoping that in those years that we had to do that, that we learned something, that we developed a sense of self, that now, as we're moving further along the way, and things are occurring in the birthing process, that we have a little bit more skill under our belt, that we do know who we are and what matters most, and that we can allow that to move out into exchange with one another, and we can lend a hand, and we can stop and pause from our arguments about who's right and who's wrong, and have a tendency to care. And when we do something as simple as that, we start to step into the truth of who we are. As we came to this dimension for a reason. We came to refine and to polish our ability to operate as a creator instead of a reactor. And so when all these times are happening that are certainly pulling reactions up and out of us, we're at a choice point. Do I react or do I create? Do I react or do I create? What do I do in this rare, raw, fine moment, in this precious moment of my life? What do I do to step toward what I came here to evolve into? And attending things like this, being in conversations like this, being available for one another are exactly how we do that, as far as I'm concerned. So, so there's just some opening thoughts. Let's see where we want to go from there.
Dr. Sue, I want to read some of the comments that have come in from our core audience that's in the Zoom room.
Okay.
Carol writes, wow, this is the best explanation I've heard to date.
Oh.
Reverend Jeffrey Colbrook writes, I love Dr. Sue's flow of information of the field of our oneness. She offers such great insights into the nature of reality.
Oh.
Omashar exclaims, wow, the universe packed into the body. Carol Simus writes, magic mana. Kathy writes, I've heard Dr. Sue explain this previously, but tonight's presentation is even easier to understand. Ellen Joy writes, I love and appreciate the visuals. They say it all. Thank you, Dr. Sue.
Oh,
Jeffrey writes, I love the picture of the torus of our human body. Carol says, I think we're all in a bumper car arena. And then finally, the last, I'm only reading a few of the comments. There's some,
beautiful.
and the last one that I'm going to read is from Ayada. She writes, I am so resonating with Dr. Sue's take on where we are at this point in time, space, and history. Oh, there are some comments from our audience, and I'm going to bring our co-host Gary on to hear what he has to say.
Yeah. Oh, God. Music to my ears. Thank you. Thank you, Sue. You know, I had this impulse before Hope and I get on to chat a little bit about what you shared. Do you have it in you if I put some music on really quiet, that you just kind of give us a chance to digest that experience with a guided of some
Absolutely. I
kind?
know it's a lot. It's like woof. And please know this, everyone, that if you didn't catch it all and follow it all, it doesn't matter. There's a transmission that's happening, and at the cellular level, your system totally knows what I'm talking about. This is how we're built. It's what we're made of. And so if we don't get it on an intellectual level, it might be beyond the circuitry that our mind has been used to functioning on right now. But underneath that layer of us is another layer of absorption and perception. And it is the highest level of perception that we have. So it gets in, not to worry. But do whatever you want, Gary. I love any kind of music that you bring into the mix is always divine.
Well, so before Hope and I join you, just let's see what wants to come through as a metabolic guided experience for what you just said. Just, it could even, it's whatever you either say or embody, and let the music kind of bring you into this ritual space so we can all absorb what you just said and what wants to come through energetically. Yeah.
So it is that I am. I have always been and will always be. I am light, come into love, come into form. As I flow into physical experience, I am free. I roll into the chaos and bring the calm. I roll into the details of my life, leading with love. For only love is real. I come to this dimension to refine my capacity to stay the course with clarity, to celebrate the life eternal, the transcendent capacity of the soul. I come through with joy. I leave it better than I found it. And this is the celebration of life. For I am and have always been love.
Yum.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love when you go there, Sue. It's like
Yeah.
it's the 1-2 punch of love that you can do that I love so much. Thank you.
It's such a blessing, to just allow ourselves in the middle of all of the all to just drop in to letting something else be more important. Because when we cultivate this thing right here, when we let that have the spotlight in our lives, it turns on the cellular structure and changes the chemistry and makes us more potent. And that is the resilience that we're looking for. It's right here. It's just on the inside. It's just a matter of focusing your attention on what is true instead of the movie. Yeah.
So this is a perfect segue to invite Hope Fitzgerald in because she and I have been doing a deep dive into this territory. And Hope, can you come on there? You are. Hi, honey. So I want to leave you a moment to engage with Sue a little bit, and maybe we can both just ask her a few questions in the last few minutes while we have her, because I know she has another appointment to go to. But just how I was thinking about you, Hope, when I was wondering what you were thinking when Sue was offering. It's like, oh my God, so in alignment with what we were working on. So I offer you a moment to share.
Yeah, I feel like we are just exactly on the same page. So,
Beautiful.
I mean, I've been working on evolution now for 14 years, and it's all about what you said so eloquently, so really in a beautiful serving. And I think I agree with you so heartily that these are the times that actually push us to define who we are. Crack the egg and figure out what kind of egg you are. We don't typically grow without the boulder in the road, to use a different metaphor. It is the boulder that requires us to make choices about and how we're going to get around it, or if we're going to stop right there at the boulder, or what we're going to do. And when we make those choices, as you so beautifully explained, that's when we evolve. We now write the script as a creator for whatever is coming next.
Yeah.
So I love what you said, and I love those visuals. They're fantastic.
Oh, beautiful. Yes, I worked long with my graphic designer. It's like, no, it needs to go a little bit more like this. And so, but it does in an instant, and when we're so very visual as sensory beings that gets etched. And when facing the boulder, the continuum pouring through me allows me to kind of do the little Yoda thing. There's no boulder. There is no boulder, right?
Right.
There is no
Right.
boulder. It's a limitation of how we've trained our senses to perceive obstacles. We think they're real, and they're not. They're not real at all. It's something you can walk right through if you simply pull your faculties together and build the circuitry to sustain that long enough that it becomes so clear that this is something that is a distraction, and I'm not letting it be distracting. I'm going to walk on. And as love, it allows us to walk through boulders, if you will.
Yeah.
And people are like, I don't understand how that happens, but watch, if one would practice loving more deeply, finding a greater version of love, and allowing for that to fill their system on in daily basis, many times a day, why not? And the more that we do that, the more our cells produce the chemistries that allow for peace and love and harmony, which allow for creative genius to occur instead of survivorship and fight or flight, and the dysregulation of the nervous system and all that stuff that everyone is so focused on. But there's the master system behind all that that's running that show, and love turns that on. And so as such, we develop the chemistries that allow us to see with great genius straight through the boulder. We can see what's on the other side of it and just walk to it and find a way. Ways show up. People, assistants, associate, collaborative energies show up, because, what quantum science is showing us is there's only one of us here. There's no one out there. It's all us. And so why would we not, as soon as we have enough potency to emanate these energies, why would we not attract the perfect sets of circumstances to help us move the boulder,
Yes, beautifully said. So, gosh, I've followed your work previous and over the years, and this is just a beautiful tie-up that you've done, a beautiful little package for all of us tonight.
Oh, thank you.
And Sue, who I think about when you're talking about that image of the colors of the chakra projecting onto the screen, that image you created.
Yes.
Such a beautiful. I think about our friend Neil Rogan and his Delightment tracks about the projection screen of the delusion that is the biopic of our hero's story. That is where the best fan and the one that writes the script, but
Yes.
he has a beautiful way of describing this, and I just think he's smiling with us right now from the other side.
Indeed. What a beautiful man. Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. And when you face this plethora of, we have Mindy Barrett, who's this angel who's been on the ground in Lahaina and then Asheville, who we'll be talking later. But I just was in Asheville. It was I just saw a little bit of what was going on, Mindy. But what I was experiencing on the ground was that there was this industrious commitment for everyone to show up and rebuild and support, and wherever there was needed, people were just chipping in like crazy. And sometimes, when you talk about these science experiments, where we get to face these dramatic experiences like the hurricane, and then we get to see who we really are when we show up for one another. I mean, I can't wait for you to talk about what you've seen, Mindy. But so when you deal with something that real, with houses, a dear friend of mine, David Wilcox, just shared his last image was of the guy, one of his dear friends, standing on the roof as the house was going down, and that was the last they saw of him. This ephemeral. I literally talked to my friend who saw him waving on the house as it was going down, and that was the last time we saw of him. So when you deal with the illusion and the reality of this level of so many people confronting challenge like this, just say a little bit about the scalability of that. How do you manage the quantum field description with the very real moment of these mudslides and floods, and just anything you have to say about
Yeah,
that.
I know when we're experiencing this in mass, when there are so many people having to come to terms with, letting go, having to come to terms with, wow, what matters most, and releasing attachments and they come down to love, they come down to connection. It comes down to, I'm here, you're here, or it even comes down to, they're not here anymore, but the love is. We're just speaking about Neil, who is no longer on the planet, but is very much here and alive with us. It's forcing us into a recognition of an interdimensional reality. It's forcing us across the veil. It's forcing us to tend to what matters more than what we've been attracted to out here in the material world. It's growing us. It's waking us into a fourth dimensional version of us, which is through a veil. And as such, it on a global scale contributes to the bandwidth of all of human consciousness.
Yes.
So someone on the other side of the planet who's breathing in the same human atmosphere, the same bandwidth of consciousness is being tapped by someone on the other side of the planet, is finding it easier to forgive something today, and they don't know why. And it's because someone way over here, this is like the butterfly effect, an electron spins here, it causes a counter rotation on the other side of the universe, on the other edge of the universe. And so this is a very real thing in this one big being. And so when every single one of us can come to terms with letting go of something, reprioritizing something, finding a greater source or sense of love, forgiving something, finding praise or celebration in an uncanny moment, when all of that is happening, we're contributing, we're uploading information into the bandwidth of human consciousness that is harmonizing to the whole thing. And in that harmonization, others that are not in the same circumstance or that are in a similar circumstance are finding it easier to find clarity and to find love and to find themselves. And they kind of don't know why. It's like, oftentimes, I've been in community of spiritual development and personal development all of my life. My father was a pioneer in energy medicine and so forth. And so I've been hearing conversations about how do we know that what we're doing is really making a difference? We try and people are still and da-da-da-da-da. And at the same time, I also, and you've probably witnessed this, that people do come to clarity faster than they did 20 years ago. They come to love, they come to surrender, they come to wakeful statements much more readily and full-heartedly than they used to. It used to be woo-woo talk, and now it's like survival talk. And we would like for it to be the only talk because it's what's true underneath it all. So it's really hard when we pick up, into one little microcosmic view, and we're just looking like, how can we deal with this situation? But if we're aware, and this is why I glanced down, I wanted to show that continuum picture, is that in that moment, right there, when you're eye to eye with someone who's really struggling, or if it's you that's really struggling, if we can just remember this part, there's so much power moving through this moment. And if we can just allow that, now we would call this the angelic realm, the archangelic realm, the Christed consciousness. We would call this all sorts of guides and ascended masters and all sorts of things that spiritual speak has been speaking for a long, long time. But all of it is just vibrational frequency, and all of it is pouring through you all the time. We just have to open and allow it to be part of what's allowing me to deal with this one-on-one situation right here, and know that when we do, we're not only in reprieve for ourselves, we're also making a contribution to that whole bandwidth of human consciousness that we're speaking about. So we're leaving it better than we found it. We're making it easier for someone else along the way as they come on similar things.
And I just wanted to notice, everybody, when we put some music on that was reflective of the unified field with the drone, which is a palpable sense of the field, right? And then Sue instantly, did you guys notice? She instantly stepped into the first person. There was a radical ownership of a direct experience and stating, I am, right? And I actually think that inadvertently, or maybe consciously, Sue, you were embodying a modality that helps your multiple centers of consciousness and multiple dimensions come into a direct experience of the now with more cooperation with what the principles you were talking about. There's some ritualistic way in which you shifted instantly into an I, thou, it's synergy, but it was through the I that you were saying. I just loved how interestingly it shifted from when you were describing the situation to you embodying. Do you notice, Hope, it's how I have the experience of you in the same way when you do your guided meditation. But I just had this thought that is a recommendation for how we can proceed in the face of dysregulation. Dropping into the portal that I am. So I just know that you got to go soon, and I know Scott and Hope, do you have any other last questions of Sue before she has to leave us?
I just have one thing that I wanted to ask Sue. So when we're talking about, I have a feeling about this, but I want to ask you, when we're talking about a love, right? The first step down from the compression.
Yeah.
That is not exactly what we always think about as love. It's a deeper, bigger, wider version. I'm assuming you're saying.
Yeah. The best way to identify, it's not love as a sentiment. It's not, I love you so much, you love me, I hope you love me too. He loves me not. It's not one of those, okay? It is the love of life itself. It is the appreciation of light dancing on the surface of the water. It's the breeze moving the trees. It's the rustle of the leaves. It's the dew on the grass in the morning. It's the gleam in the baby's eye. It's the felt sensation of deep love and appreciation on a grandmother love sort of way. It's deeper, wiser, richer. It's like the molten lava of the center of the earth that literally embraces everything. If you think about it, there's nothing it would reject. It dissolves and consumes everything. And so it's this deep earthly mother, divine feminine nesting, birthing space. And so we have to think of it that way. It isn't love as a sentiment. It is life itself is love and celebration. It is that. And so it's another way for us to discover what love really is. And it's we can speak about unconditional love, but it's even bigger than that. It's even bigger than that. It's love without reference of condition at all, condition or unconditioned. It's before that. It's bigger than that. It's undivided. It's completely undivided. It's a realm. It's an entire realm.
It's a force. It's really a force.
Yes.
But I'm so glad that you just got very specific about that for everybody listening. Because I think it's helpful.
Thank you for asking.
Understand the different levels.
Yes, it's a very important distinction. Thank you for asking. It's hard to pack it all in just a few moments.
Yes, it is. You did a great job.
Dr. Sue, thank you so much for being with us. And I do want to, before you leave, just show people a little bit about how you can get more of her. We've got in a homeopathic dose, but she is prolific, and there are many, many wonderful ways to get more of her wisdom, to take it in. And it's really easy. Go to her website, which is her name, Dr. Sue, S-U-E, Morter, MORTER.com, drsuemorter.com. And I encourage all of you to do what I just did. Put in your name and your email address. And she's very generous. You put in your email address and you get goodies, including a beautiful 12-minute guided meditation. And of course, on her website, you can find her books, her courses, and all things Dr. Sue living on the Dr. Sue Morter website. Sue, there are so many comments. I'm not going to have time to read them because I know you need to go, but our audience is just, and this is like the people in our Zoom room are kind of our core group, but I know that all across Facebook Nation, people are watching and getting blown away right now. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. My honor. Always.
Indeed.
Thank you for the invitation. Wonderful to be with you all. Wonderful to meet you, Hope. And thank you again.
I couldn't have imagined a better solution or a better response to this. And thank you for your generosity. I love you so much. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Much love. Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay.
Bye, Sue. Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed.
Gary, do you want to play your video as a transition?
Yeah. Just this for those of you who've probably seen through the years, we have fallen in love with this short form called the Transformance, where people are speaking, a wisdom keeper speaking with music that's meant to be spacious, and then with images that drop you in. And we all have the opportunity to feel a kind of a bonding in an aligned, unified field experience. And I was hoping to share some of the new ones that Hope and I have just done, but we don't have visuals yet. But I can't wait. The thing that our program that we're going to be talking about on our thing soon, we'll actually have some of them done for us to listen to during our program that we'll talk about. But for now, I'd like to just share this chance to drop in together and to use it as a chance to long, deep breathing. And to just create, this powerful experience of the unique